The courtroom fell silent. Mary's shaking hand clutched a single sheet of paper, the evidence she'd sworn she'd never reveal. Across the room, Kody's confident smirk faltered as Robyn whispered, "Don't do this." And then Meri said, her voice breaking as it echoed through the tense silence, "The truth you've all been hiding ends today." The judge adjusted his glasses, the gavel sounding like thunder in the courtroom. The flashes from cameras of reporters outside the room streaked through the frosted windows. It wasn't only a case anymore. It was a family on trial. Kody sat upright, arms crossed, eyes locked on Meri. For years, he'd led his family with the pride of a king. But now, that kingdom was crumbling, brick by brick, under the weight of secrets too heavy to hide. Meri's voice shook. "I didn't come here to destroy anyone," she said softly, turning to glance back at Christine and Janelle sitting behind her. "I came here because the truth deserves its place, even if it hurts." Christine leaned forward, a mixture of fear and encouragement in her eyes. "You don't have to do this alone," she whispered. But Meri shook her head. "I already did it alone for years." The judge cleared his throat. "Mrs. Brown, you claim to have new evidence regarding the allegations brought against Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown." Meri nodded. Her hand trembled as she passed the folded paper to her attorney. "This isn't just evidence," she said quietly. "It's the truth I've carried for too long." The attorney approached the bench, handing over the paper. Kody leaned toward Robyn. "She's bluffing," he hissed. But Robyn didn't respond. Her eyes were red, her fingers clenched around the silver cross at her neck. The judge unfolded the document and began to read silently. The air in the courtroom grew heavier with each passing second. Even Christine looked perplexed. She'd heard the rumors, but never thought Meri would actually produce it here. The judge finally looked up. "Mrs. Brown, are you aware of the seriousness of this accusation?" Meri nodded, her voice low but steady. "I am, and I'm ready to prove every word." A flashback rolled through her mind as she stood there. The nights of silence, the moments Kody stopped calling, the way Robyn always knew things she shouldn't. It had all led here, to this single day in court. Christine's heart raced as she watched. This wasn't the Meri she remembered, quiet, forgiving, and always in the background. This was a woman reborn through pain. "Mrs. Brown," said the judge, "you may proceed." Meri took a deep breath. Her eyes were shining with tears. "This case isn't about revenge," she began. "It's about betrayal. It's about how truth can be buried under years of lies, until someone finally digs it up." Kody's smirk came again, this time a bit shaky. "You're twisting everything, Meri. You've always needed someone to blame." Meri's tone sharpened. "Blame? You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to stand in front of strangers and talk about how you and Robyn—" She cut herself off, taking a deep breath. "No, this is about justice." Robyn looked down, tears streaming silently. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. The judge looked between them, the tension crackling like static in the air. "Mrs. Brown, please continue. What is your evidence referring to?" Meri hesitated. Her attorney whispered, "It's okay. You can tell them." She shut her eyes for a moment, remembering the day she found out, the phone call, the strange message that changed everything. "It started," Meri said softly, "with something small, something that didn't make sense. But when I followed it, it led to a truth none of us could imagine." Outside, the world waited. Reporters, cameras, fans, all wanting to know what could be so explosive that Meri Brown would take her family to court. Christine folded her hands together, her lips moving in a silent prayer. She knew that Meri had held on to something painful, that the look now in her eyes was something deeper. The judge spoke again. Is this evidence related to the ongoing dispute regarding the family's assets? Meri shook her head. No, Your Honor. This is about identity, about deception, about the truth of who we really are. Kody leaned forward, eyes ablaze. You're playing dangerous games, Meri. Meri stared back, unflinching. The only danger is pretending this never happened. Nobody said a word for a long moment. The only sound in the room was that of the ceiling fan. Then, in an instant, the bailiff entered and whispered something to the judge. The expression on the judge's face changed. He turned back to Meri. Mrs. Brown, are you aware that the court has just received a new motion, one filed anonymously this morning? Meri froze. A motion? Yes, said the judge. Apparently someone else wishes to testify. A ripple of shock moved through the room. Kody looked back, eyes narrowing as the courtroom doors opened, and the sound of heels echoed against the marble floor. Everyone turned. A woman in a dark coat came in, composed and confident, holding a sealed envelope in her hand. Robyn gasped. No, she wouldn't. Meri's breath caught. She knew that voice. The woman in the dark coat walked slowly toward the witness stand. Every eye followed her. Even the reporters, who'd been whispering nonstop, fell silent. She lowered her hood, and the courtroom gasped. It was Christine Brown. Kody's jaw tightened. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered. Robyn reached for his arm, but he jerked it away. Christine didn't glance at either of them, kept her gaze fixed on the judge, voice calm but with an edge of fury. Your Honor, she said, I asked to testify because this isn't just Meri's fight. It's ours. We all deserve the truth. The judge nodded slowly. You understand you're under oath, Mrs. Brown. Christine smiled bitterly. After years with Kody, I know more about false oaths than most people. A few nervous laughs erupted, but Kody didn't. He was glaring, his knuckles white. Meri sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, watching Christine take the stand. For once, she wasn't alone. Mrs. Brown, the attorney started, tell the court what you found out. Christine inhaled, steadying her breath. It started when I left Flagstaff. I thought I was walking away from the lies, but some lies follow you. The judge leaned forward. Be specific. Christine opened her purse and pulled out a small flash drive. On this, she said, are copies of financial transfers from accounts that don't legally exist under the family trust. Money moved from the Sister Wives LLC into a private fund created by Robyn. Gasps filled the courtroom. The blood drained from Robyn's face. That's not true, she cried. Those were business expenses. Christine didn't bat an eyelid. Then why were the withdrawals made the same week you and Kody filed separate insurance documents, listing yourselves as a single household? The judge frowned. Mrs. Brown, are you suggesting fraud? Christine looked him dead in the eye. I'm saying betrayal. Meri turned to Kody, eyes shining with tears. You said you were broke, that we had nothing left. While we were selling our homes, you were hiding money? Kody slammed his hand on the table. You don't understand how family business works. Everything I did was for protection, Christine snapped. Protection from what? The truth? The judge's gavel struck once. Order in the court. Robyn buried her face in her hands. Kody looked around the room, desperate for control. You all loved it when I was the one making decisions, he shouted. Now you want to destroy me for it? The judge's voice boomed. Mr. Brown, control yourself, or I'll have you removed. Kody sat down, breathing heavily, his eyes burning with anger. Christine said, her voice much calmer now. For years, I believed the lies. I thought Robyn was just another wife who wanted peace, but she wasn't. She was building an empire, one Kody helped her build. She turned to Meri. And you were the first to be erased, Meri. You were cut off so quietly, none of us saw it. Meri's lip quivered, and for the first time, she looked like she might break. But instead of tears, she smiled faintly. I see it now. Outside, cameras clicked furiously as news alerts hit social media. Christine Brown takes the stand. Financial scandal rocks sister wives' courtroom. Inside, the judge motioned to Christine to play the files. The screens flickered on. Numbers, transfers, signatures appeared. Mutterings spread throughout the courtroom. Robyn shook her head. They're twisting everything, she whispered, but the expression on the judge's face told another story. These documents show systematic redirection of assets. Kody's attorney jumped up. Objection, Your Honor. We haven't verified the authenticity of these files. The judge nodded. Objection noted. But I'll allow preliminary questioning. Christine looked back at Kody. You remember the night we all signed that renewal agreement? You said it was symbolic. But this, she pointed at the screen. This shows you were already moving our family's money somewhere else. Kody's jaw clenched. You think I enjoyed doing that? I did it because this family was falling apart. Christine fired back at him. You were the one tearing it apart. The courtroom buzzed again, the judge pounding his gavel. Meri whispered, he'll never admit it. Her attorney leaned forward. Then make him. Meri stood. Your Honor. May I question the witness? The judge raised an eyebrow. You may. Meri faced Christine. When you left, did you know about the second account? Christine shook her head. No. I only found it when I got a message from someone inside the bank. The room fell silent. Someone? Asked the judge. Christine nodded. An anonymous woman. She said she couldn't stay quiet anymore. She mailed me those files last month. From an address in Flagstaff. Meri's eyes widened. Robyn's old address. Robyn's head shot up. That doesn't mean anything. Anyone could have used it. The judge sighed. We'll take a short recess. When we return, Mrs. Robyn Brown will take the stand. Gasps filled the room once more. Kody leaned into Robyn, whispering harshly. You'll fix this. You'll explain everything. Robyn shook her head, her eyes wide with panic. Kody, I can't lie anymore. He froze. She said in a whisper. I said I can't lie anymore. He grasped her wrist. You will. Robyn whipped her hand away and stood up, scraping the chair noisily on the tile floor. For one moment, it seemed as though she'd run, but instead, she turned toward the door, her shoulders trembling. Reporters shouted questions as she passed. Mrs. Brown, are you admitting guilt? Are you cooperating? Robyn didn't answer. She just continued walking, her face streaked by tears. Meri watched her go, feeling a strange mix of pity and vindication. She's not the enemy anymore, she whispered. He is. As the courtroom emptied for recess, the judge leaned toward the bailiff. Prepare a protective order for Mrs. Robyn Brown. We may have a hostile witness. Kody slammed his briefcase shut, muttering, You'll regret this, Meri. Meri looked directly at him. Maybe, but at least I'll regret something honest. The recess bell rang. Outside, the storm clouds thickened over the courthouse, the sound of thunder echoing faintly, fitting for the storm brewing inside. Christine laid a comforting hand on Meri's shoulder. You did it. He's cornered. Meri shook her head slowly. Not yet. The truth hasn't even started. When the courtroom reconvened, the air felt heavier, almost electric. Reporters pressed in closer. The tension that had simmered all morning now pressed against every wall. The bailiff's voice cut through the silence. All rise. Court is now in session. The judge took his seat, eyes scanning the room. "Bring in Mrs. Robyn Brown." The doors opened slowly, and Robyn walked in. But this time, she did not have the same appearance as the woman who entered this courtroom days ago. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes red but determined. In her hands, she held a small brown envelope. Meri watched quietly, her heart pounding. Christine folded her arms, ready for anything. Kody, however, sat frozen, the usual arrogance gone, replaced by something unfamiliar: fear. The judge nodded. "Mrs. Brown, please take the stand." Robyn sat, her hands trembling a little as she laid the envelope on the table. "Mrs. Brown," the judge began, "you understand that you are now testifying under oath." She nodded, her voice cracking. "Yes, Your Honor." "Would you like to make a statement before questioning?" Robyn swallowed hard. "Yes, I do." She turned to Meri. "For years, I told myself that keeping quiet protected my family, that what Kody and I did was out of love, not deceit. But I can't live with the lies anymore." Kody's chair screeched as he stood. "Robyn, stop talking." "Sit down, Mr. Brown," said the judge. Tears glistened on Robyn's face under the courtroom lights. "This isn't about hate, Kody. It's about truth. And what's in this envelope will end every lie we've built." She looked at the judge. "Your Honor, this is a DNA report." A murmur rolled through the room. Meri leaned forward, her pulse quickening. Christine whispered, "DNA? What could that mean?" Kody's face had gone white. "Robyn, don't you dare." The judge nodded slowly. "You may present it." Robyn's attorney handed the envelope to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. He looked at it briefly before setting it aside. "Explain what this evidence pertains to." Robyn took a shaky breath. "It's about Solomon." A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Meri clamped a hand over her mouth. Christine's eyes widened in incredulity. "Solomon?" the judge repeated. "Your son?" Robyn nodded. "Yes. The child Kody and I claimed is ours." Kody slammed his hand onto the table. "Stop it. This is insane." Robyn's voice rose. "No, Kody. What's insane is how long we've lied." And now, the tears flowed freely. "When I became Kody's wife, I thought this would all finally make sense, that we'd be a family built on faith and unity. But before we married, I found something out." She paused, breathing heavily. "I found out I was pregnant." And Kody wasn't the father. A sound escaped Christine, half gasp, half sob. Meri stared, every muscle in her body tensing. The judge's pen stalled in mid-air. "Are you saying—" Robyn nodded. "The DNA proves it. Solomon isn't Kody's biological son." Reporters scrambled out of the courtroom, shouting into their phones. Kody's attorney demanded a recess, but the judge refused. "No, we continue." Kody's voice thundered across the room. "You're lying to destroy me, Robyn." Robyn's face hardened. "No, you destroyed yourself." Meri whispered under her breath. "So that's why he changed after she came in." Christine leaned in closer. "Everything is now making sense. The favoritism, the secret trips, the unexplained anger." The judge motioned for silence. "Mrs. Brown, how did this information come to light?" Robyn let out a shaky breath. "I always knew deep down. But after the investigation began, I was contacted by a lab technician, someone who said a file had been misfiled years ago from a private test I took before Solomon's birth." She closed her eyes. "When I saw the results, I hid them. I thought the truth would ruin us." Kody's fists clenched. "You had no right. You let me raise him. Robyn turned to him, her voice almost breaking. He needed love, Kody, not your control. The judge nodded slowly. We'll submit the DNA report as evidence. A court-appointed lab will verify it. Kody stood, breathing heavily, as rage laced every word. You all think this means anything. I was that boy's father every single day. Blood doesn't change that. It changes everything. When you build your life on lies, Meri whispered coldly. Tears filled Christine's eyes. We all built our lives upon lies. The judge banged his gavel again. Order. The tension was unbearable. Robyn sat silently, hands folded in her lap. The storm of whispers filled every corner of the courtroom. Then Meri's lawyer rose. Your Honor, we request that this new revelation be included in the overall fraud and emotional damages claim. Mrs. Brown's concealment of paternity directly impacted financial and familial decisions made under false pretenses. The judge nodded. Noted. Objection, shouted Kody's lawyer. Overruled, said the judge. Meri's heart pounded. For the first time, she didn't feel fear, she felt relief. The truth was finally coming to the surface. Kody looked around the room with a wild-eyed gaze. You think this changes anything? You think you'll win? He leaned into Meri, his voice low and venomous. I know things too, Meri. Things you don't want the world to hear. She didn't bat an eyelid. Then say them. Kody hesitated for a moment, and the silence spoke more than any words ever could. The judge called a short break. The moment the gavel came down, Kody stormed out of the courtroom. Cameras followed him as reporters shouted, Mr. Brown, how do you respond to the DNA claims? He didn't answer. He just shoved through the crowd, muttering under his breath. Inside, Meri sat quietly. Christine put a hand on her arm. You okay? Meri nodded slowly. I'm not broken this time. Just done being afraid. Robyn stood across the room, her face pale but peaceful. He'll never forgive me, she said softly. Meri looked at her with a surprisingly gentle gaze. Maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe it's time we forgive ourselves. The courtroom grew quieter. Even the audience in the gallery seemed to sense it. This was more than a case now. It was a reckoning. The judge returned, adjusting his glasses. The court will continue tomorrow. All parties are ordered not to discuss the evidence publicly. Everyone started gathering their things. Tension was heavy in the air. But there was something else there, too. Exhaustion. A long-awaited release. Christine turned to Meri. You think the DNA will really be confirmed? Meri looked toward the judge's bench. I think it already is. He's just waiting for the world to catch up. As the courtroom was finally emptying, a flash of lightning illuminated the windows. The voices of reporters still echoed outside, the world spinning already with headlines. But inside, Meri remained seated for another moment. She stared at the now empty witness stand, a place where truth had finally stood unafraid. She then said to herself in a soft, whispered tone, it was never about him. It was about us finally being free. The courtroom was heavy with tension, like a storm waiting to break. The judge leaned back, eyes narrowing as he shuffled a new set of documents. The murmurs in the gallery faded into a deafening silence. Meri sat perfectly still, hands clasped so tightly the knuckles turned white. Kody, for once, wasn't glaring, he was sweating. Robyn leaned toward him, whispering frantic words, but Kody's gaze was locked on the man walking toward the witness stand, the forensic DNA specialist. The man laid his hand on the Bible, swore his oath, and sat down. His voice was calm, measured. Professional, but every word felt like a knife cutting through the air. Your Honor, he began, We conducted multiple tests, standard and extended lineage analysis, on the samples provided. The results were unexpected. The judge's eyebrows lifted. Unexpected in what way? The expert hesitated. The DNA collected from Mr. Kody Brown does not match the paternal DNA of one of the children listed in this case. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, shouts, cameras clicking. The judge banged his gavel again and again. Order, order. But even he couldn't hide the flicker of shock on his face. Kody's face drained of color. Robyn's hand shot to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Meri sat frozen, tears brimming, as if hearing the confirmation of something she'd long suspected, but prayed wasn't true. When silence finally returned, Kody's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, we object to the relevance of this claim. This case isn't about paternity. It's about defamation and privacy." But Meri's attorney, calm yet sharp, stood and replied, "It's about truth, Your Honor, and truth doesn't stop where Kody Brown wants it to." The expert went on. Further analysis of the paternal markers revealed consistent mismatch. More comparative DNA pointed at another individual, a close associate of the family. Christine turned her head sharply. "Wait, what?" she muttered under her breath. Again, murmuring echoed through the audience. The judge then leaned forward. "Are you suggesting that someone else might be the biological father?" The specialist nodded slowly. "Based on genetic proximity, yes. The second sample we compared was a near-perfect match." The judge frowned. "And who provided the second sample?" The expert hesitated, glancing at his notes. "It was submitted anonymously, but from chain of custody, it originated within the Brown family network." Robyn shook her head violently. "That's impossible. This is insane. You people don't know what you're talking about." Kody slammed his fist on the table. "This is a setup," he shouted. "A smear campaign to destroy me. None of this is real data. It's fabricated." The gavel struck again, but the judge's voice remained composed. "Mr. Brown, you will have your opportunity to respond. Please, sit down." Kody sat, but the fire in his eyes burned. Meri's gaze never left his face. Her tone came out quiet, her words practically trembling. "You did it to yourself, Kody. All those years, you lied, not only to us, but also to all who watched." He turned his head and sneered at her. "Oh, please, Meri, you've always wanted attention. This is just your latest stunt." But Meri didn't bat an eyelid. She addressed the judge directly. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge nodded. "Go ahead, Mrs. Brown." Meri stood up, her tone firm, though heavy with emotion. "For years I believed our family was built on faith, honesty, and love. But behind the cameras, behind the smiles, it was manipulation and control. I was told what to say, what to feel, and what to believe. And when I finally tried to walk away, I was painted as the bitter ex-wife. But I have proof. Proof that Kody and Robyn have lied, not just to us, but to the entire world." The room leaned in. Even the cameras stopped clicking. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside were printed messages, financial records, and photos. "These," she said, placing them on the table, "show how far they went to keep their secret safe. Money was moved, documents were destroyed, and people were paid to stay quiet." Robyn broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "You don't understand, Meri. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Meri's voice cracked, but did not break. "No, Robyn. It wasn't supposed to happen at all." The judge motioned for a recess. The tension was unbearable. People scrambled out, whispering, recording, and speculating, but the hallway was where the real storm was brewing. Kody cornered Robyn near the vending machines. His voice was low but sharp. "You told me this would never get out." Robyn's mascara ran down her face. "I didn't know she had proof, Kody. You said everything was gone." Kody paced, as if he were caged. If that DNA report gets fully entered into record, it's over for both of us. In the courtroom, Meri sat alone, her attorney reviewing evidence. Christine and Janelle approached quietly. Christine spoke softly. "You okay?" Meri smiled faintly. "No, but maybe for the first time, I will be." Christine sighed. "You just blew up everything we built." Meri nodded. "It wasn't built on truth, Christine. It was built on control." The three women sat side by side in silence, with pain uniting them and choices separating them. Outside, fans crowded the courthouse steps, holding up signs, some for Kody, some for Meri, all desperate for answers. When court resumed, the judge's voice was firm. "Before we proceed, I must remind everyone, this is not a spectacle. This is a court of law." Yet, deep down, everyone knew this was show and tell. A family that had once been idolized now shattered under the weight of its secrets. The DNA expert took the witness stand again. "Your Honor, with your permission, I can disclose the full name of the secondary match." The judge hesitated. Kody's lawyer stood, objecting furiously. "Your Honor, revealing that name in open court serves no legal purpose. That is character assassination." The judge turned to Meri's attorney. "Is this essential to your case?" "Yes, Your Honor. The identity directly relates to motive and intent to conceal evidence." The judge exhaled. "Proceed." The room held its breath. The expert adjusted his glasses. "The paternal DNA match belongs to a male relative of Mr. Brown." Gasps again. Robyn froze. Kody's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Christine covered her mouth in shock. "It's all connected, isn't it?" Meri whispered, almost to herself. The expert continued. "The relative in question is a half-brother, someone who had ongoing contact with Mrs. Robyn Brown during the time of conception." The courtroom erupted one last time. The judge banged his gavel so hard it cracked the wood. "Enough. This court will recess until tomorrow morning." Meri sank back in her chair, shaking. Her attorney put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You did what you had to do." She nodded weakly. "I just didn't think it would go this far." Morning light spilled through the courthouse windows, soft but cold. Reporters had already filled the steps outside, their cameras aimed at the entrance where the Brown family would soon appear. The whispers were endless. Speculation, betrayal, DNA, half-brothers, money, lies. Inside, the courtroom sat in tense silence, the kind that hums beneath the skin. Meri walked in first, wearing black, not for fashion, but for finality. Her face was calm, but her eyes told the story of sleepless nights. Behind her, Christine and Janelle followed quietly, their expressions unreadable. Kody entered moments later, his posture defensive, jaw locked. Robyn clung to his arm, eyes red from crying, trying to appear fragile yet desperate. The judge cleared his throat as he took a seat. "This court is now in session. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone, this is not a show. This is about truth and accountability." The gavel struck once. The sound echoed like a heartbeat. Meri's lawyer rose first. "Your Honor, the evidence we presented yesterday, including the DNA findings and financial documents, paints a clear picture. This isn't about fame or revenge. It's about deception, manipulation, and betrayal that has caused irreparable harm." He paused, allowing the words to sink in. "For years, my client has been subjected to emotional and psychological abuse under the guise of family unity. She was silenced, she was gaslighted, and she was used for public image. The truth she uncovered is not to destroy, but to free herself and others from the control of Mr. Kody Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown. A hush fell. Kody's lawyer was on his feet in a heartbeat. Objection. This is nothing more than character assassination dressed as a sob story. My client built a life, a family, and a brand that helped everyone in this room. He's being punished for success, for trying to hold a family together when everyone else abandoned their commitments. Kody's voice boomed before the judge could cut him off. That's right, I gave everything to this family. And now they're stabbing me in the back because they can't stand that I moved on. Meri didn't react. She sat still, eyes lowered, until she finally looked up and her voice cut through the air like glass. Moved on? You didn't move on, Kody. You erased us, one by one. The crowd murmured. Cameras clicked. Robyn covered her face with trembling hands. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, I will allow you a brief statement before we move to closing arguments. Meri rose slowly. Your Honor, I never came here to destroy Kody or Robyn. I came here because I was tired of pretending. The world saw us as a family built on faith and love. But what they didn't see are the lies, the control, the things we had to say to keep the illusion alive. I was told my worth was based upon obedience, that to question him was betrayal. But the moment I finally stood up, when I wanted freedom, I was told I was nothing. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. And then I found out the truth, that the man I loved had not only emotionally betrayed me, but had kept something much deeper. The DNA results weren't just science. They were proof of how far he would go to protect his ego. I wanted closure, not chaos, but sometimes the truth burns everything it touches. Robyn cried softly next to Kody and whispered, Please don't do this again, Meri. Please. Meri looked at her, her eyes soft but firm. Robyn, I already did. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Kody's attorney stood again, his tone sharp. Your Honor, the DNA revelation was misleading, circumstantial, and irrelevant to this defamation claim. We request that it be stricken from the record and that all public statements made by Mrs. Brown be removed from broadcast platforms. She's using this courtroom to wage a personal vendetta. The judge turned to the forensic expert still seated near the front. Carlson, do you stand by your testimony? The expert nodded. Absolutely, Your Honor. The evidence is genuine and confirmed by independent laboratories. The judge scribbled something, then looked back at the attorneys. Proceed with the closing statements, please. Kody's lawyer was the first to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, my client is not perfect, but imperfection is not a crime. He built a family in front of millions. He carried the weight of scrutiny for years. And now, the same family he supported is punishing him for the cracks that fame created. This is not justice. This is vengeance. He sat down. Meri's lawyer rose to his feet, unruffled. Justice isn't vengeance. It's truth without fear. And for the first time, Mrs. Brown has spoken her truth without his permission. He motioned toward Kody and Robyn. They built their empire on loyalty and love, until those words became tools of control, until trust became a contract and affection became manipulation. That's what this case is really about, power. And today, we ask this court to recognize the courage it took to expose that power. The courtroom was silent. You could almost hear people breathing. The judge leaned forward. Before I make my ruling, there's one final matter. Last night, new evidence was submitted to the court. A recorded conversation between Mr. Brown and a network executive. Kody's head snapped up. What? That's private. That's not admissible. The judge ignored him and pressed play on the audio. There was a slight crackle. Then Kody's voice filled the room. "If Meri talks, the show's over. Shut her down. Offer her money, whatever it takes. Robyn will back me up. The public doesn't need to know who the real father is." The room was filled with gasps. Meri's eyes widened. Robyn covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. Christine looked away, disgusted. Kody lurched forward. "That's taken out of context. That's not." The judge banged his gavel. "Enough, Mr. Brown." He looked around the courtroom, then took a deep breath and said, "After all the evidence, DNA results, financial records, communications, and testimony, this court finds that the plaintiff, Mr. Kody Brown, has failed to prove his claims of defamation. Furthermore, this court recognizes substantial evidence of intentional deception and coercion by the plaintiff and his associate." Kody froze. His lawyer slumped back. Robyn collapsed into tears. The judge went on to say, "Therefore, I am dismissing this case with prejudice. Further, the findings will be forwarded to the Attorney General's office for review of possible perjury and obstruction." The gavel came down one final time. Bang, flashes, whispers. Gasps erupted in the room again. Meri sat there, motionless, processing it all. Christine squeezed her shoulder, whispering, "You did it." Meri nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, the truth did." Kody turned to her, rage and desperation mixing in his eyes. "You think this is over, Meri? You ruined everything. Everything we built." Meri stood, her voice quiet but sharp. "No, Kody. You ruined it the day you thought you could own us." The bailiff stepped in as reporters flooded the aisles. Robyn tried to reach for Kody, but he pulled away, storming out of the courtroom. The cameras followed. Outside, the sky was gray, and then the rain started. Softly, then harder. Meri stepped out, feeling the cold drops on her face. She looked up, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Christine and Janelle joined her. Janelle smiled wryly. "Guess the truth really does come out in the rain." Meri laughed through her tears. It always does. They walked down the courthouse steps together. No longer sister wives, but survivors of the same storm. And as the screen fades in your mind, the narrator's voice returns one last time.